Jeremiah 42, verses 9 and 10. Thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, to whom you sent me to offer your prayer. If you remain quietly in this land, I will build you up and not tear you down. I will plant you, not uproot you, for I regret the evil I have done you. Oh, wait, regret? I thought God existed outside of time and space. I thought he knew all things. I thought he was perfect. How can he regret something that he did to his chosen people? Well, perhaps one of our callers today will explain this to us, this seeming contradiction in the omnipotence of Yahweh. Well, let's find out. The show's starting now. Hello, everyone. Today is August 13th, 2023. I am your host, Johnny P., and I'm here today with, and I'm very happy to say this, Hemant Mehta. Hemant, how are you doing?
Excellent, Johnny. I'm excited for the calls. Let's do this.
I'm just checking off all the big names, and as soon as I check off all of them, I'm just going to retire and go back into the woods, Jeremiah Johnson style, living as a mountain man. That's the plan.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, I'll send you letters from the Smoky Mountains or wherever. Today, you are watching the Atheist Experience, which, as everyone watching knows, is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and separation of religion and government. Before we get started on calls, we have our, as usual, Share Your Experience segment, in which we have we post a question to our fans, and they will put down in the comments their answers to it. Last week, we asked you what would be a red flag on a religious dating app, and we have 3 top answers. So the first one, Zap Brannigan, one of my favorite characters. Glad to see that he's a fan of the show. Red flag on a religious dating app: has risen more times than Jesus. Yep. That's a reality for some people, Number 2, C Nault, red flag, or maybe it's a green flag. I got your second coming right here. Sweet Jesus. And our number 1 choice by Chuck Gatos. It asks extensive questions about barbecue sauce preferences, but types of meat are never mentioned. Cannibalism, maybe? I think. I'm not sure. But be that as it may, thank you for your suggestions. I'm going to let that one stew. The type of meat that'll be in my stew will not be mentioned. You have a new question this week, and Hemant's going to be the first person to answer it.
All right.
And the question is, what is the weirdest Bible story?
I feel like, there's no shortage of options, but if you're reading through the stuff near the beginning, I feel like when the donkey starts talking, that should be a red flag that something weird is happening here, because it speaks in complete sentences and questions, and it just should raise every flag that maybe we shouldn't take this literally. Maybe.
That donkey's seen things.
Oh, it's seen a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very upset that people are mean to it.
Well, God can magic anything into existence, right?
Yep. Anything.
Penguins can make it
as
to
a
Mount.
bush.
He can speak as a bush. He can zip penguins off from Mount Ararat all the way down to the South Pole, kangaroos, what have you. Put lions on a diet,
Oh, yeah.
of piranha or whatever it is that they ate for all that time. So, well, that's a good one. Talking donkey. Let's see what the watchers of this program have to say. Put your comment in the comments section, not in live chat. Don't do that, friends. Put it in the comments. And next week, tune in and we will reveal our favorite 3. All right. So we're going to go ahead and take our first call. Our first call is coming from Art, a guy in Pennsylvania. And he says there are advantages to believing in a God outside of organized religion. Art, you are on AXP with Hemant Mehta and Johnny P. Tell us what some of those advantages are.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Can I do a little bit of a lead-in, very brief? If we
Please
list the number of gods and goddesses that have been worshipped, it goes into the hundreds or the thousands, okay, historically. Now, two likely consequences of this, not that they're proven, is number one, that humans have a great capacity for inventing gods, which should lead us to suspect that existing gods are invented. That's number one. Number two is because they've been so pervasive, it should be, I think, easy to believe that maybe something exists that deserves to be called God. Now, if you take this stance, you'd be what I call a seeker. So you've got organized people believe in organized religion, people are atheists, and then you get seekers. Now, I believe the seeker stance is more believable than atheism because most people want to believe in God. And I think it's stronger because once you say, okay, maybe God exists, that blows the kalam, the ontological, the first cause, all those arguments out of the water. If I say maybe God exists, don't waste my time with the kalam. I've already granted you that maybe God exists. And if you take this attitude that because so many other gods are invented, existing gods are invented, you can put down the Bible. And yet, in other words, you give people the choice who still want to believe in God to give up the Bible. Because the Bible has other fairy tales. And it's interesting. One of the fairy tales I was going to mention was the worldwide flood, which we know never happened. That begins with God regretted making humanity. And I was going to make that point. And it was interesting that you guys made it. Another silly fairy tale
Destiny.
is the whole Egypt story.
Sure.
Supposedly Yahweh sends Aaron and Moses to impress the Pharaoh so the Pharaoh will let the Israelites go. And then God hardens the Pharaoh's heart so he won't let the Israelites go. It's a ridiculous story. And he
Right.
tortures the Egyptian nation like a sick little boy would torture an animal. Okay.
Preaching to the choir, Art. Let's go back to where we started.
Okay.
Yeah. Hemant, what was your thought?
Go ahead.
Well, my first thought is, Art, you mentioned that people have had thousands of gods over the years, but then somehow that leads you to think that a god, a singular one, exists, which are two totally separate premises. But it sounds like the reason there were so many different gods in the past is because all these different people were looking for answers before they had a way to figure out what many of those answers might be. That doesn't suggest God is true. It just means people were desperate for whatever answers they could find, and they would settle for whatever explanations seem to be popular. And it's easy to coalesce around magic happened. It's easy to say someone just poofed it into existence or whatever, than to try to figure out rigorously, scientifically, what some of these answers might be. That doesn't tell me God, or there's something to the concept of God, or that we're better off because all these people were hungering for that. What they wanted were answers. And this was the simplest, easiest way to get an answer. But that doesn't, like you suggested, that doesn't make the answer right. But it also doesn't suggest that what they were looking for put them on the right track or anything. It's just the lowest hanging fruit that they could find.
Well, first of all, I'm not saying it proves it, but I understand what you said, I think. But what I'm saying is that, for me, makes it easy to believe that something exists. Like
why?
People wanted to be. Well, okay. Because okay. Let me give you an analogy which may or may not satisfy you. People have wanted to be healthy. And at one time it was bloodletting. At one time it was casting out demons. Eventually we got to something that's actually true and works. People want to live forever. Maybe someday we'll be able to do that. So the thing is, because so many people believed in God in the past, in a God, some sort of God. I'm thinking that maybe there's something out there. No, I'm not saying maybe. I'm not saying it's proven, but maybe there's something out there.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I believe there is something there. The desire for there to be something more powerful, more controlling, with a personal interest in the well-being of humankind, an individual or a being or an entity for whom we can point to for objective morality, for an ultimate source of justice, for a continuation of life. I believe that does exist, but just because I want it to exist doesn't make it so. If that were the case, I don't have to work anymore. I can just want money to fall into my lap. So I agree with you that there's something there, but I think you're skipping ahead. What if this is a silly example, Art, but I want there to be faster than light time travel without time dilation, right? I want that to exist. Just because I want it because I watch Star Trek and I want to go to other planets, right? Just because I want it doesn't make it true, but there is a genuine desire in me for that to be the case.
But that's exactly the point I was trying to make, which is that desire has always been there. We want hope, we want answers, but whatever people are grasping for, that, like you said, Art, I think Johnny's right. You're skipping a step there. That desire has always existed. The answer we give to that desire doesn't make it any more or less true, nor is the concept of that any stronger, because it's just the thing we've gotten used to in our society.
Yeah. What do you say to that, Art?
Well, let me point out that when I say there's something that deserves to be called God, this could be the Buddhist clear light of the void. This could be Brahman of the Hindus.
But no matter how you define it, I'm trying to still figure out why you think that belief in something out there makes more sense than just accepting the idea that all these people didn't have a method to find an answer. They went with what they had available to them, which is mythology. So that's it. I mean, that's the easiest answer they could find, but it doesn't mean that the answers they came up with were any closer to reality.
I feel that we're talking past each other. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I think you understand what I'm saying. I guess we just don't agree. But
Art, try something. Try something. Why don't you try? Why don't you try expressing what we've said in your own words?
You're saying that the desire for something doesn't mean that it exists. We can desire to have faster than light travel. We can desire to have $1 million. That doesn't mean we're going to get it. I mean, is that a fair? And you're saying that the cases I've cited of the previous gods doesn't prove that there's a God, that they were just human beings trying to make sense out of their world and doing it very badly and coming up with some invalid concept that has no reference in reality.
Well, as far as we know, no valid reference in reality, no good evidence for it. And I think that's fair. Hemant, would you say that's a fair summary?
Yeah, that's a fair summary. But then the idea that the concept of a higher power, there's some validity to that. That's where Art, I think that's what you're getting at, and that's what I'm not getting on board with, because I don't know how the fact that everyone's coalescing on this idea that there's one or many beings that have that sort of power. I don't know why that's any more or less true, because so many people have pointed to that easy explanation as their version of the answer.
Right. Yeah. Well, the only thing I would say is you use the word validity. I'm not claiming that the idea is valid. I'm claiming I'm claiming that a seeker, so I began with 3 levels. People believe in organized religion, people are atheists, and I think the third one would be the seeker, the person who's open to the idea that God exists in some form, be it uncreated light or whatever. That would be a seeker. They could say, God may exist, but because of all these previous obvious human-created religions, they could believe that religions today are created. And can we just say one more thing? Let's get onto a pragmatic level. I think we all agree how strong the desire is in many people to believe in God. And a lot of people, if you give them the choice of atheism or believing in God and the Bible and Jesus and the flood and the Passover and blah, 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 they can't do the atheist thing, so they have to stay where they are. But if you say, look, other religions are, in other words, any person who's religious, maybe not any person, most people who are religious believe that other religions are human inventions. If you're a Christian, you believe that the Hindus just invented all their gods. If you're, okay, anyway, you get the idea. So a person, I think, could accept, okay, maybe God exists. Maybe my religion is about as valid as all those other religions. And as I say, it's a stronger position in a way because it neutralizes half of the arguments you guys get. Someone comes to you with the Quran, if someone comes to me with the Quran, I could say, forget about it. I already admit that maybe God exists. So what's the point of the Quran? What's the point of the ontological? So in a way, it's stronger. Yes, go ahead.
It's stronger. I'll agree with you. Perhaps that it's stronger, but we don't need to stop there. I guess maybe what I'd like to know is your definition of atheism. I'm assuming is an individual who asserts that there are no gods or God. Is that your position on atheism?
No, the hard atheist asserts there is. The soft atheist says they just lack belief in a God.
Yeah, I lack belief in a God. So I don't need to debunk a lot of these other things. I am, I guess, in your definition, a seeker in the sense that I'm open to the possibility if good evidence was provided to me. I haven't seen anything. And perhaps I'm just a flawed vessel for this information. But
But Art, even if you're going back to what you're saying a second ago, that a lot of people believe in some of this stuff, it might blunt the criticism and things like that. Why is that not attributed to just people hoping? I mean, I go back to what I said earlier. They want hope. They want to believe there's something more out there. They want to believe there's more to this life. Those are human desires. I get that. But you seem to be jumping from that desire to something very specific. And I don't get that leap. And if just because it makes the arguments a little easier or the debates a little easier to have, because we've already met at the idea that there's something out there, I don't know why that is a benefit to anybody if the half we agree on is still false, or if it's not with evidence or anything like that. Like, who cares if we met them halfway and they have fewer arguments to use against us when the arguments we have are still unproven?
Well, I had mentioned a pragmatic aspect, and
all right.
I live in the United States, and the Christo-fascism, etc. As they say, I think that a lot of people, you've seen the things about 40% of the people would never vote for an atheist or something, etc., etc. So I think a lot of people can't go to atheism, or are unable, unwilling, maybe not can't, but unwilling. And so they cling to the Bible and they cling to the religion they've been brought up in. But if you give them a third choice, if you say, look, you can keep the idea of God, but come on now, this flood thing is stupid. The whole Egyptian thing is like, what was God trying to do? We're torturing this poor nation, and a whole bunch of other things in the Bible. Maybe they would listen. But if you just say, no, look, God doesn't exist. You've got to give up not that you say this, but that really what it boils down to. It for someone to be an atheist, they feel like they have to give up.
I feel like that's exactly what's happening in many ways, that a lot of people are ditching these specific interpretations of various religions. And a lot of people, they may not jump to atheism, but they are jumping to, all right, I believe there's something out there. I don't necessarily want to define it. If I'm a Christian, it's a non-denominational Christian, not a specific type. That seems to be what's happening anyway. But like, I feel like now we're talking about two different things. Like, strategically, what's the best thing to do? But if you care about truth, what's the best thing to do? If you care about reality, what's the best thing to do? Those are different answers. Depends which, like, am I a political consultant, or am I someone who's interested in what's true?
Well, if you care about what's true, you could also admit that maybe something which deserves to be called God, maybe not the typical man, our Father who art in heaven, the personal being who's outside of the universe. If you don't limit yourself to that, I think it's very easy to think that perhaps there is some sort of ultimate reality, some sort of,
Art.
I
You just acknowledged.
Go ahead.
Art, you acknowledged before. Sorry, is a delay.
Yeah,
Art, you acknowledged that we're not necessarily. I can't speak for Hemant on this one, but you acknowledge that other than the hard atheists, those who don't hold a belief in God, arguably are impliedly that kind of a person. That sure, there. I guess maybe there potentially could be, possibly, maybe, but I don't believe in it until I see evidence for it. I'm not going to grant that such a being exists until I have evidence for it. I can't do it. Yeah. I'm not going to say it doesn't exist, but I'm not going to be like, well, maybe it's possible, so maybe I should do exactly what you say.
Are you saying that if people believe in a very specific Christian nationalist type of God, we would all be better off if they just believed in a higher power that didn't have all that stuff attached to it? I mean, sure, if they want to do that on their end, maybe there would be less religion in politics in a way that I find personally to be harmful. But in terms of, are they any closer to being accurate? Are they any closer to having their beliefs align with reality? The answer is no.
Art, I think here's my homework for you. All right. I'm not going to go out there arguing for a softer, kindler, vaguer concept of deity. It's just not in me. I don't think it's in Hemant either.
Right.
But you can, and perhaps we can meet somewhere out there in the world, trying to de-radicalize Christian nationalists from multiple perspectives, trying to secularize a world that gives rights to people, equal rights to people, and doesn't give special rights to people who believe in certain weird fairy tales. Okay. But the battle against Christian nationalism isn't have a magic ricocheting silver bullet that has garlic in it too. It's going to come from dialogue and engagement and a robustifying, please forgive me, I don't know what the right word is, a bolstering of the structures that separate church and state, that sniff out this kind of thinking and these kind of volatile institutions. Okay, so yeah, I agree with you. I've compared what you were talking to different scientists who are trying to breed malaria-resistant mosquitoes and releasing them into the wild, where they eat the same food that mosquitoes eat. Malaria mosquitoes. And so they outbreed the malaria mosquitoes, and therefore it makes the environment more less hostile for human life. But I'm not going to go around trying to preach a softer Christianity. I don't think you're suggesting that.
I guess I would say that the people who believe in organized religion are like the mosquitoes nowadays, and the malaria-resistant ones might be people who are seekers. I don't know. Anyway, I'll take that homework under advisement, but I might not get it back to you at any time soon.
That's fine. There's no due date. Just mail it in when you want to. It's an open book test, so go ahead and get to us. Good talking with you, Art. Thank you so much for calling in.
Okay. Well, thank you both. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
See ya.
Bye. All right. Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you something, folks at home. 1 second. I'm going to tell you something, folks at home, but I ended up clicking X on the box, and therefore I didn't have. Yeah, I'm a silly boy. Okay, here we go.
As it happens. Yeah,
it happens. It happens now and again. We've been telling you about this here Bat Cruise for some time. The Bat Cruise is going to be taking place on Saturday, August 26th, 2023, and tickets have sold out. But there is a wait list. So you can get on that wait list. Go ahead and sign up. Maybe next year we'll do 2 boats. Maybe we won't. So go ahead and sign up. Join the wait list. Go to tiny.cc/batcruise.com, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. For those of you with tickets, you'll be joining the atheist community of Austin for a fun summer evening. Well, it's not really an evening, is it? On the water, conversing with free thinkers like Forrest Valkai, J. Mike, Christy Powell, and myself. That's a promise and a threat at the same time, as well as other members of the crew and other hosts who may show up. I can think of a particular gentleman who's going to be coming in from parts unknown. to join us on that. The back cruise is going to be a heck of a lot of fun. I'm going to be there. It's going to be a heck of a lot of heat too. So get your sunblock, bring ice, bring a chest with ice, and we'll have fun. I might bring schnapps.
Ooh.
I was thinking schnapps this year. But Malort will be also on the cruise, and you have to show me your ID.
Thank you for
if you
representing Chicago.
Oh yeah. So that's fun, isn't it? Let's take our next call. I would like to speak to David. David from Ireland.
Hello, how are you?
Hey, David says, I don't know how to deconstruct my supernatural beliefs. David, is it David? Is that how you say it?
It's David, but people usually call me Bob, so choose whichever.
You should hear the
I'll
things
take it.
Yeah, they call me far worse things, David or Bob. What are your supernatural beliefs?
Well, first thing, I used the word supernatural because I didn't know what other sort of word to use. I think the world is entirely natural, and even if there is some sort of spiritual realm, it would have been a natural part of the natural world. But basically, I used to be a Catholic. I started reading the Bible, and thanks to that, I wasn't Catholic anymore.
Yeah,
do it.
But
there's a magic bullet.
Stuff like, yeah, no, I think everyone should read the Bible. That helps immensely to get out of the belief in it. But I started going into stuff like occult Wicca, stuff like tarot cards, and stuff like that, crystals. I never went into it deep enough to a point where I would think that you can cure cancer with crystals or anything like that. But I had certain experiences that I have my own senses, and I use those senses to examine the world. And those senses, when I was using tarot cards or playing with crystals and all of that, those senses were telling me, hey man, what you're doing here have some sort of effect on the world and is in some capacity real. That energy is flowing through you and through them crystals, or those cards are telling you something about the reality. And those experiences, well, they are personal, and I get why no one else would believe in the fact that, or not the fact, in their legitness, just based on what I am able to say. For me, well, I use my senses to detect that sort of part of the world, but I understand at the same time on a logical sort of way that I can experience things that are not necessarily true. Brains can be fooled.
David, can you go back for a second? When you say you use tarot and it brings to light some things that make sense to you, are you able to give us an example of something where you went in not knowing an answer, you used the crystals or the cards, and you came out with an answer? Can you give us an example of that?
Well, that's the part where I was saying, like, I never went in believing that it was having like extra super hyper powers. So one of the things, for example, I used cards is sort of meditation, and trying to sort of help me with, like, how to say it, like develop relations with people, for example, right? I would sit down with the cards and ask about, like, what that person is, what they would, how they would react to a certain ways of behavior, of my behavior, and sort of in that regard, ask those cards or ask whatever is behind those cards to help me in that case. And a lot of the time then when I would sit down with those people, for example, and then use the knowledge or the information that I got from those cards to get some answers or get them to behave in a specific way that I would want them to behave, or that I would want them to react to my sort of behavior. that would, for the most part, sort of work, and
Yeah.
and I would see the
Bob,
effects of it, like
Bob, aka David.
yeah.
So let me get this straight. And I have friends who are atheists who use tarot cards
Okay.
as a way to focus their thoughts, a way to center themselves, so to speak, and put themselves in a receptive, meditative state or in a contemplative state, right? And so it helps them examine the things that they're going through in life and maybe consider things in a more deliberate and not reactive way, like we tend to do, that autopilot I've mentioned before on the show, where we're just kind of in autopilot. It could be chicken bones, it could be tarot cards, it could be tea leaves, it could be the horoscope. I don't really see any reason to believe that just because you get yourself in a different state, because you go through this ritualistic process of looking at tarot cards, that means that there's a supernatural or whatever, extra natural, I don't know how you want to phrase it, power inherent in the cards. I think it's in the process. And I think what you're really doing, this is me asserting something here, so people go ahead and go wild in the comments. I don't care. I think you're putting yourself in a different mental state. Okay.
Can I add to that? I mean,
please.
Yeah, everything you're saying, Johnny, makes sense there. David, I've been in the same situation where it's like, I wonder how certain people might respond or how this conversation should go and things like that. For me, I know personally, I prefer taking really long walks where I'm not thinking about this stuff all the time, where I can get distractions out of my head. Sorry, as I put this back in here. I like taking just long walks and being able to think about this stuff because that puts me in a different state from the, always on mentality that I'm in otherwise. But that helps me focus and that helps me relax. It sounds like you're doing the exact same thing I am, but instead of going out and just trying to get away from distractions, you're using tarot cards, you're using crystals, you might be meditating if other people may be doing that. Nothing wrong with doing those things, but I think Johnny had the point, which is you're doing this to get in a state where you could focus on this stuff and think through possibilities and how things may go. And a lot of times we don't have the ability to do that because there's always some sort of distraction. And so for a lot of people, having that way, having a horoscope kind of point you somewhere, or having a tarot card that might help you think about a certain possibility, that's all well and good, but it doesn't mean those items have any special power to them. It is all about how you are able to think through these things when you're when you're around that stuff. And the truth is, again, I'm not saying you should just stop using those things if you think they help you. But if there was something else that brought you that same sense of calm and that sense of getting away from other distractions, you may find that you come to the same conclusions.
Yeah. It's Dumbo's magic feather, David.
Well,
it is.
I do get what you're saying. I mean, yeah, in a way, I'd say that's at least part of it, if not a big chunk of it. The thing is, just like I was saying earlier, right? The description when I called you, the description that I gave was, I believe said something along the line, what other people would call supernatural. That's because, again, even if there is something that you could call supernatural, I think it is a part of the natural world. It exists, therefore it is natural. But like tarot cards, one example, right? And everything sort of meshes together because when we go to, like, for example, crystals, I felt like I was able to pump an energy into them crystals and then access it later on to, let's say, relax and sort of refresh myself quicker than normally would have happened. Or, for example, I could, using a weird language, but load that crystal with an energy, hand it to my friend without telling him what I did, and then ask him, like, okay, hold it in your hand, concentrate on it, what do you feel? And he would have said to me, okay, I feel, the warmth or some sort of thing that wouldn't be possible or wouldn't be expected if that would be just a hunk of stone that has no other sort of anything behind it.
Have you tried that? Because that actually sounds like a wonderful experiment to try.
Yeah, you said would have,
because,
but I'd like to see what he did say.
Yeah, so I have quite a few friends that are sort of in that spiritualistic.
Right, right. They're already there. They're already there. That's the thing.
Yeah, no, I get it. But the thing is, you know, when you sit down with them, right? So I try to apply something akin to like a scientific method to it, right? So let's say I would sit down, have 10 stones, 10 quartz stones, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hold each of it for, I don't know, half a minute in my hand with closed eyes, right?
Sure.
And only one of them, for example, I would, or two or whatever, random number, I would say, okay, you know, I'll be loading the energy into this one. And the rest of them, if anything, I'll try to clean out from any sort of residual, whatever it could be. So to set it, you know, so to let them choose, okay, this one is the loaded one and this one is the empty one.
Sure.
And while it wasn't 100%, you know, what you call it, 100% accurate.
Effective. Yeah.
It was over 50%. Usually there was like 7. No, that I did a couple of years ago. But
I mean, we can play this game about the scientific process you're using here to try to prove that these things have some energy to it. But I think I just want to, and I don't know what method you're using, and I don't know if the stones are identical and if the control group works and all that stuff. But I am wondering, like, if you just were looking for direction on certain questions, on certain issues you have, and you tried a different process. I mean, it's really hard in real life to come up with a perfect situation where, you know, you think the crystals helped you in this situation, but if you just did something else, you talked it out with a friend of yours, you went on a walk, you did something else that helps you relax, would you have come up with something different? I know that's hard to play out in real life because you only get kind of one chance of doing that stuff.
I never would have claimed that, you know, okay, let's say a crystal for tarot cards would be something that is better.
But you are saying they have some special energy to them, and that's
But even seeing that, what I'm saying is basically, you know, things in the life can be tools, right? You can use a hammer to nail a thing to the wall, but you can also use an old piece of bread. An old stale piece of bread might not be as good of a hammer.
The difference is you're saying here the hammer has some sort of special ability that those other tools don't.
No. What I'm saying is, I think the tarot card might be even that piece of bread, but it's still having that ability, and I have a hard time coming to, because I try to be as reasonable and as use logic in my life. So when I come to sort of a scenario where I'm thinking about that, I am struggling because the logic sort of and the way that I am observing the world, for the most part, tells me like, nah, that's bollocks. But at the same time, my experiences tells me, hey, David, but there is something behind it. You might not understand.
David, have you ever looked into James Randi? Have you ever looked into the debunking work of James Randi?
Yes, I have, and this is something that when most people, like I speak with people and they tell to me, you know, oh, I put a force on this guy and he's gonna die next week, or something like that. I never thought that any of it has such power to do such a great effect. I'd be like, well, great, go to James Randi Foundation. You're going to get loads of money for something. You can do something like that, you know, because, but that's why I'm struggling. The personal experience tells me there is something there, but it's not as powerful as some other people might have claimed, or it's not as special. But I cannot get my head.
I think we get what you're saying, David. I don't mean to cut. I don't want to cut you off, but we're kind of going around and around in circles. I get it. You think that there's a something there, and that you have done this sort of.
You've tried to be scientific about it, and it seems convincing to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess the only way that I could suggest that you could continue to do your work, talk to people about continue to look at debunking scientific experiments, setting up the experimental methodologies and stuff like that. I think this is something you're hung up on every single time a person has tried to prove that they have some sort of, I hesitate to say supernatural or paranormal, because I think you're acknowledging that maybe it's just an unmeasured physical phenomenon.
Natural,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, natural phenomenon. Okay. Every time somebody is trying to prove energy healing, crystal junk, all that kind of stuff, it's always proven to be some mistake in the testing or some fraud.
Or the types of rocks you're using, or the types of
right.
or the methods you're using unbeknownst to you, no matter how scientific you are trying to be.
Yeah, you could switch out these crystals for pieces of cardboard, I'm sure, is what you're saying. It's not about the crystal, it's about the intentionality or something like that. And you're acknowledging all that stuff. I think the more you read up on this, I think the more you're going to find that you are looking for positives where maybe you're getting mixed results. There's a lot of noise in your data, and you're selecting out the positives, or you're really psychic.
And you want it to be true. I mean, you said you're using this stuff and it helps you go through these situations, and you feel like you came out on the right side of it because you used these methods. But also, like, it sounds like you want to give credit to something other than yourself for making some of these choices. I don't know why you need to take that extra step.
Well, I don't think I'm trying to make credit to something else, because ultimately, you know, even if it is actually working the way I think it is working, it's still me who is using those tools. It's still me that starts, you know, turning the wheels. It's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, and I don't think that, you know, the tarot cards or the sort of crystals and all would have done much without sort of conscious effort on someone's part or some creature's part, right? But the thing is, like I said, I'm struggling with it because I in a way I don't want to believe it, but just like loads of times was said on the shows, belief isn't a choice. You're either convinced or not, and I am.
It sounds very much like what our first caller was saying. It sounds like what our caller was saying earlier, which is, you know, there may be people who believe in a very specific brand, a specific type of Christianity or what have you, but maybe it's better if they believe in some nebulous God out there because it's less harmful. And part of me wants to argue, yeah, but it's all wrong. And part of me says, yeah, I mean, I guess it's better than the alternative you just offered me, which is you don't believe these crystals are supernatural. You just think there's some form of energy there.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I kind of am going back and forth on this. Do I want to give you credit for acknowledging that these aren't special, but maybe there's something there? Or do we just say, but there's nothing there, and you're trying to create something where nothing there exists, and you don't have to do that. But it is hard to give that up because a lot of people, like you said, your friends believe in some of that stuff. And it seems like you can always find positive reinforcement for the idea that these things may have something to them. But I also feel like if all your crystals and tarot cards disappeared, minus the psychological reaction you might have to it, you would probably end up in the same space.
Yeah. What do you say to that, Bob? And then I'm going to ask you, I'm going to let you go and say one last thing. What's your response to that?
Well, my response, I just don't know. Like, to be honest, like I called hoping that yours gonna be, you would say something that would help me, because that's what I called for. I am struggling with
help
it.
You find confirmation that there is something to it, or help you realize that there's nothing there?
Yeah, because we can yell at you, David, if we want to. We can yell at you and tell you that you're full of shit. We're not going to do that because this is clearly something you're going through. You've got to work out the steps. All right? Let me say this real quick.
Yeah.
Everyone out there, hold on, David, 1 second. I'll be brief. I promise.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person out there who has supernatural beliefs or they're questioning it, you can tune into a show like this and you can listen to people dunk on believers all you want. Okay? But the fact is, the only person who can make you examine the facts and be critically analyze the claims made is you, the person at home. And that includes David. That includes Johnny, includes Hemant as well. Anyone else, you can't just follow along. You can't follow a trail of breadcrumbs to critical thinking. You must do the work. Okay? So, David, I'm sorry we didn't give you the answers that you needed, but I think we did point out a few things to you that the power
definitely helps to think about stuff.
Yeah, the power was within you all along. You didn't need that magic feather. You really don't. That focusing your mind puts you into a different mental state. I'll grant you that, but I will not agree that you have.
You have not stumbled upon magical crystals, even if
No.
they're giving smaller doses of magic. You have not
Yeah.
quite gotten there.
No.
But again, you figuring that out for
Yeah.
yourself, and not because we're saying that. That'll take time.
Yeah, keep examining this stuff. Keep going into it. Do me a favor, David. You're still on the line, but you're muted because I want to say this one last thing. While you're working this out, can you promise me in your head, all right, and telepathically send it to me, along with a can of cream soda or whatever, Mountain Dew, that you will not try to sell any of these services, that you will not encourage people to abandon medical advice or make financial decisions based upon any of this stuff, and that you will always communicate with the friends who believe in this kind of woo your doubts and work with them to try to find a way to falsify the claims. Okay? Do that. And although it's woo, it feels like it's fairly benign woo. But with that, I'm gonna drop you. You examine this kind of stuff, Hemant. Do you live in this world? You see this stuff out in media. What are your thoughts? Your final thoughts on that?
Oh, I definitely see it out there, but again, I think people want to shortchange how much credit they deserve for themselves, because I'm telling you, I mean, look, I am not unique when I say I feel like there's always stuff to deal with, think about, and it can feel overwhelming at times. And I know for me, like, the best answer I have found for myself is I need to get away from the computer for a little while. And when I have the time to do that, and whether that's in the shower, whether that's when I'm walking in a forest where there's no Wi-Fi anywhere, like, it really does help clear my mind and give me a chance to, like, I don't know, imagine conversations or work through possibilities and try to figure out what the right move or something might be.
Yeah.
And listen, for other people, and I'm not even mad about it, but for other people, they rely on supernatural things, or they go to church because church is the place where they can clear their heads and give themselves over to something else. Like, I kind of get why people might want to do that, because they feel like it is God who is speaking to them, or they feel like there's something in the horoscope that understands them personally. But I think you got to the heart of it, which is it's that process that has the power. It's not the thing you are relying on. There's no magic in the forest that gives me any more clarity on these situations. Like, if meditation and yoga is your thing, that's cool. There are ways of doing that are not supernatural, or, even though it's rife with it.
Oh yeah.
But you just got to put yourself in a mental state where you could think through these things, and you don't have to give credit to anyone else or anything else. Like you said, like, the shoes had all the power. You were jumping on your own. It wasn't the shoes, it was you. You just think it's the shoes. Whatever it is.
I have had paradigm shifting experiences from meditating, yoga. Long runs will do it to you as well. I went to Sagrada Familia in Barcelona once upon a time. Walked into that giant church with all those stained glass and the structures, and fully not believing in the power of sweet Jesus Christ. But I was like, this is beautiful. And I walked out feeling differently because it's framed in a way aesthetically.
Right. And it's almost giving you the space to think through these things and feel like not everything is as big as you're making it out to be. And again, there's power to that, especially when right now you're always inundated with technology or whatever's happening around you. Like, there's plenty to worry about and freak out about. But if you just can get away from it, whatever helps you do that, that's a powerful thing. But it doesn't mean there's anything special that you're doing. There's no power in the thing you're using.
Exactly.
Taylor Swift is not magic.
Even
if it helps.
Some would argue otherwise, Emmett. I don't know. Listen. All right, if you don't want to support Taylor Swift and her witchcraft, you can support the ACA. we have ways you can do it. I'll tell you what they are. I don't have any Taylor Swift jokes because I don't know anything about her. But for
You're
as
missing
little,
out.
yeah, apparently, you can become a member of the channel for as little as 99 cents a month. Click the join button below the video. This will give you access to special chat emojis, and you can send a super chat with a question or comment, which will be read live on air during the show. And we have some here now. Hemant, can you see in the chat we have some of those
I
super
do see
chats?
some of those. Yeah.
Would you go ahead and read them, because people want to hear you, they don't want to hear me.
Oh, sure. Well, I'm seeing this one from Sterling Ruby. Do you guys have any 101 basic books on evolution or the Big Bang you would recommend to read? P.S. I love what you do. I assume that's directed at you, Johnny.
Yeah, right.
You know what? So I have very weird feelings about recommending a Dawkins book at this moment. However, when it comes to the Big Bang, there's literally a book called The Big Bang, and it's written by the physicist Simon Singh. I love that book in terms of explaining how the Big Bang happened, how the universe came to be. I found it to be really easy to read without getting too jargony, and it was written in a way that just made me want to keep reading it. I absolutely love that book. If I was making recommendations about Dawkins books, I would say my favorite of his is The Ancestor's Tale. But you know, what's weird is, because I don't really need convincing that evolution is true at this point in my life, I haven't read a lot of the pop science books that try to explain it in the past couple of decades, maybe. So I don't know what I'm missing out on, because I'm sure there are plenty of people who have done the same. But I can tell you that I really did like The Ancestor's Tale. But if you're looking for the Big Bang stuff, that literal book, The Big Bang by Simon Singh, is probably my favorite.
That's pretty good. Good recommendation. I'll check that one out. I'm going to read the next one so we don't have to widen the shot, so we can
Oh,
get
okay.
your head will expand with.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Native Atheist says has been a member for 1 year, has donated $10 to the cause. Thank you so much, and says Meta is always an awesome host.
Oh, thank
And
you.
I agree.
That means a lot. I appreciate that.
Could you get the next one, Hemant?
Yeah. Sigwald, who's given us 200 Argentinian pesos to the AXP. I don't know what question this is. Johnny, what brand of yerba mate do you use? What is that?
Yeah, yerba mate is a kind of a tea.
Yerba mate.
Yeah, it's the
well that was embarrassing on my end.
No, you're good. There's an accent mark they forgot to put in there.
Okay.
Right now, I'm drinking La Tranquera, but I'm a big fan of. Oh no, I'm not drinking La Tranquera. I'm drinking CBC with the mint, because it's later in the day. It's late. I know. It's not pure. I don't add sugar, and I don't like drinking out of gourds because you can't wash them. This is ceramic. But yeah, CBC, naranja or mint, and yeah.
Very nice.
But I'm a fan of them all.
Thomas Gallipoli gave $5 to AXP, to the ACA, I should say, and says the supernatural doesn't exist because no military has ever successfully weaponized it. Yes, right on. Great show. Yeah. And thank you. Greg Markowski also gave $5 to ACA and says thanks for the show. Appreciate that.
According to Wolfenstein, the Nazis were trying, but that's a fiction, unlike the Bible, which is totally true. Well, I'll tell you what.
They have tried with like divining rods and things like that. They have spent a lot of money on really weird supernatural things that, hey, never pan out.
That's a fun litmus test for you, that we've never weaponized it. That doesn't mean we're not doing it right. There's an overseeing deity who prevents the weaponization of spiritual powers.
It's the sequel to Oppenheimer.
There you go.
There you go.
All right. So let's go ahead and let's take our next call. I'm going to take one here from Tyler in North Carolina. Tyler's a guy who doesn't believe that God exists, but does that mean we have free will?
Yeah,
explain yourself.
Talk about. How you guys doing?
I'm doing all right.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm like you guys. I'm an atheist. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to say the reason I found the show was because of you, Hemant, when you were on with Matt a couple years ago. I love everything
Nice.
you do on your channel.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I've been wondering. So first of all, I was indoctrinated Christian. I was a Christian up until I was 16. I'm 19 now. I've been, agnostic atheist a few years. I'm comfortable with accepting the atheist label now because of how you guys defined it. Like, atheism is not, I know there is no God, can prove to you that there's no God. It's just, we're not convinced that there is.
Right.
So, but I absolutely agree. Like, if God exists under the model of Christianity, there's no free will in that. He knows everything we're going to do. He knows that, all of us are presumably going to burn in hell for eternity. And he knew that billions of years before we were born. So that, there's no free will under that model. But if there's not a God like we believe, then that kind of muddies the waters a little bit. Like, there's not enough evidence to really go either way. I hear conflicting beliefs on that within the atheist community on the topic of free will. I don't know what you guys think. Like, if there's not some arbitrator of the universe, then does that mean we do have free will? I just want to know what you guys think.
That's such a fair enough. We've covered this on the show many, many, many times. So I'm not an expert in the philosophy of free will or the neurology of free will, but I will say that the idea that there's either free will or not free will is a false dichotomy. There's various different kinds of notions of free will that's determined by various factors. Like, for example, would you agree that you didn't have any free will choice to be born at the time, at the place, in the manner that you were, right?
No, of course not. Yeah, absolutely.
So many of the factors of your existence was determined before you ever got a chance to exercise one flicker of a choice. And then on top of that, you don't have control over other people coming into the lobby of your life. So you're forced to limited number of choices that way, right? And then on top of that, you have certain biological necessities that require you to do certain things at certain times, or you will cease existing. And then there's the question as to whether or not the universe, in some higher sense or some greater sense, is deterministic, independent of quantum physics and all this kind of stuff. So you've already narrowed complete and utter libertarian free will from the equation, and now you're exercising potentially you're exercising certain kinds of choices within a circumscribed universe of limited choices. How can that be considered free will? And then on top of that, we already know from neurological discoveries that choices appear to have been made inside of the brain, or there's brain activity inside the brain before the individual becomes conscious of making a decision, right? So is that free will? None of these things require sweet baby Jesus coming down from heaven and getting gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
The only thing I would add to that is the suggesting that we don't have free will implies that there is some power coming from somewhere who's making that decision. And again, like Johnny said, if you already acknowledge that there's no higher power, no God making those decisions, I guess I'm wondering where that would come from. So I'm not buying that aspect of it.
Yeah. You know what I want you to do? I want you to have you done any reading on this subject, on the notions of free will, like from a neurological standpoint?
I have the only book I'm familiar with, I'm sure you guys both probably know this one very well, is the book Free Will by Sam Harris. And Sam Harris touches a lot on this. Sometimes since he's he's very intelligent. I love Sam Harris, but sometimes it's kind of hard to understand what he's saying because he's using such big words and stuff like that. But like, he does a lot on this. So I guess the only stuff I've really read about was Sam Harris's book, and even in Sam Harris's book, he argues that free will is an illusion. He's always doing stuff on free will. So the only stuff I've heard about it on Sam Harris.
Tyler, look in the comments after the show. I'm gonna the inestimable Shannon Q has recommended some books in the past on shows, and I'm gonna go ahead and reach out to her and get some. I'm sure that Forrest Valkai has some good suggestions as well of stuff to read on this subject. I've read some. Nothing's coming to mind, but I know I've read some materials on this. Was it Dan Dennett wrote some stuff at some point?
I was thinking the same thing, and I couldn't remember the title, but I feel like he's also covered this subject. Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that.
Yeah.
Please find more sources than Sam Harris, though.
Yeah, Sam Harris, fan of the show, I'm sure, but he's not the beginning. He's not the alpha and the omega of this topic, nor do I think you think he is. But yeah, thanks for your call so much, Tyler. Do appreciate you calling in. All right.
And let's give a shout out to Siggy Sigwald, who gifted 20 Atheist Experience memberships, and also says, great show, by the way. Hail Sagan. I like that.
Yeah, like that too. We have podcasts, we have Patreon, and we have a channel that houses all of the shows of the ACA in audio podcast form. Visit tiny.cc/AEN podcasts. There you can listen to all the latest shows from the Atheist Experience, Talk Heathen, Truth Wanted, Nonprofits, the flagship show, and all the other shows that the ACA has ever produced, all on one channel. And now we have a very special segment that I'd like to present. So a lot of times I get this all the time in my regular life. Like, why do you do this stuff, Johnny? No one ever changes their mind. And I say, false. People change their mind all the time, and they send us emails. They send us voicemail messages. Sometimes it's a result of calling and realizing that maybe they didn't present their argument particularly well. Sometimes it's just from listening. Sometimes it's just a book recommendation that we made. Well, we got a real good one. I did a show about a month ago with Objectively Dan of Truth Wanted fame, and we had a fella call in to talk about sovereign citizenship, ways that you can avoid paying taxes, ways that you don't have to do that, and it was very interesting. And I've been thinking about doing a formalized response to it, but I got him to sort of give us all of his evidence at once. And I'm a busy guy, but someone else thought that he did a great job, and he called in. And let's go ahead and listen to our caller right now.
You guys have to be so fucking stupid. Why'd you show up? You guys fucked up and started talking about the law and didn't know shit about shit. Now your whole show's fucked up. You guys have to be the dumbest motherfuckers I ever seen, fulfilling each other's sexual fantasies. Oh my God, Johnny has his license as a lawyer and doesn't even know what the Bar Association is. He's a part of the British Accreditation Registry and works for the Crown. The motherfucker's so stupid. Y'all don't know that shit? Lawyers know procedure, not the law, you fuckboys. Y'all are some of the dumbest motherfuckers. You don't even know the difference between the United States and the difference between the United States and the United States of America. You don't know the 3 things you don't want to be: a citizen or a person or a resident, dumb fuck. What's a resident? Y'all don't even know what a non-resident or any of that shit is. Y'all have to be the dumbest motherfuckers. And Johnny's a lawyer? He don't know this shit? He don't even know? He's laughing and rolling his eyes while he's sucking on some fruit juice, thinking about sucking on another man. Y'all are some fucking weirdos, bro. Hey, Johnny, go pick up a Black's Law dictionary, you ignorant, fucking illiterate, fucking motherfucker who don't know shit about shit. You're talking shit about motherfuckers about God. Let me tell you, when that motherfucker smacks you up.
That's it? That ended?
Yeah.
Can I get that on a Christmas card?
Yeah. I can tell you the procedure of getting it, but I can't tell you the law of it. Yeah, that caller is great, and I love it. I am an idiot. let the record reflect, I am absolutely an idiot, and I didn't know that I belonged to the British Accreditation Registry or whatever it is. All that stuff, absolute trash, garbage, bad think. And maybe I really ought to do a response to it, but I do appreciate the call. Thank you for the engagement. And I hope that you and your friends will all make comments so you can boost us in the algorithm. Do
Johnny
appreciate
needs
it.
more fruit juice. Help him out.
Yeah, I need more of that. Need more of that sweet, sweet fruit juice while I'm thinking about dudes. So you can help me out that way. And you can also help me out by looking at our limited edition t-shirts that's available in our merch store. Visit tiny.cc/merchaca to get them now. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and do a big thank you to the crew. The crew is the people that make those kind of things happen, both the show and the merch. Let's see. Well, there's the guy who does a lot of the shirts right now. He wants the truth, and he wants that fruit juice too, I'm sure. All right, now let's take our next caller. I want to get a call from Sam. Sam is an ambiguously gendered individual from New York. And this person says, once you are complete, you can feel the power of prayer. Sam,
Oh, really?
Hemant and I well, first of all, maybe it's we're not in the category of people who will ever feel it because we will never be complete. But supposing we got complete, how could we feel the power of prayer?
Yes.
It's easy. Your brain processes it.
Oh,
Well, that's it.
well, that's
There
great.
we go.
Are you complete?
Yeah. Here's the thing too. Also, y'all said, is it allowed to not leave? Is it allowed to leave prayer? You're not allowed to leave prayer because you need the fullness. You need the fullness of that prayer to make the complete you. That's the Spirit of God.
Sam,
So, wait, what am I? If I don't pray and I'm incomplete, what is missing? I'm trying to figure out what the pie chart looks like and how much I am missing of it and what the label on the pie chart is.
The Spirit brings us together. It brings us bond. It gives us a bond. So that's why I said what I said.
Are you complete, Sam? Are you one of the complete ones?
I mean, all y'all jackasses, because I'm just saying that the Spirit of God gives us a bond. It gives us that togetherness, that perfect connection.
People
when you
who believe in a different God from you, are they complete? Because they pray, but it's not to your religion. I'm just trying to understand what to type in the Excel spreadsheet here.
Yep.
Well, they're searching for that complete them. Because you got to remember, we all have the Spirit of God. We just got to search. I mean, not everyone has the Spirit of God, but most of us do, and we gotta find that fullness.
Wait, what percentage complete am I right now?
Yes.
76.
76
is a 24% missing.
It's a good 24%.
God takes less than 0.25% of my completeness. That seems low for someone who's omnipotent.
But its infinity is contained within that 24%, Hemant. Yeah.
All right, but here's the thing. Do you think we are affected by others?
Yes. I think we are affected by others.
So there is a fullness. Am I right?
Wait, that leap from one sentence to the next just threw me for a loop there.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I want to know, Sam, can you tell me the process by which you became complete? I'm assuming, because you believe in this stuff, that, let me ask you, do you feel the power of prayer?
Yes, I do feel the power of prayer sometimes, but there's times when I have rough days and I'm feeling short of myself. That's why I keep praying to keep finding that fullness.
What is that feeling? Can you describe that feeling?
that feeling is like I'm satisfied, like I have nothing to look over, like I have no back turn or anything.
It's a feeling of satiation. Is it a physical feeling, or is it an emotional feeling? Is it a psychological, or is it all of it?
It's spiritual feeling.
Okay.
It sounds like he's just trying to recharge himself, and prayer does that for him. And we're just not quite there.
Is that a fair assessment, Sam?
Yeah.
Okay. So you occasionally feel the power of prayer, but that, by your own words, that means you are complete, or at least part of the time you're complete. How did you become complete?
It's easy because I'm able to like look at someone and tell them if that's the full them or not.
Okay. Am I complete?
By sight, you know
Yeah,
someone is prayered up and recharged by sight?
By sight. It says in the Bible, the eye is the lamp of the body.
The eye is the lamp of the body.
This is like atheist gaydar. I'm very impressed.
Yeah. It's Goddar. Can you do it on video? Are you looking at the screen right now, or are you just over the phone?
I'm over the phone.
All right. I'll tell you what. It only works. It's limited. God's power that he imbues others with is limited. It can only be done by sight. Could it be done through video, or does it have to be done in person?
It's done by sight. You look at your target, and then you explain. You could tell your brain processes, and you could tell what if the person is them or not. Just like when you have friends, you're able to process. You're able to interpret whether your friend is them, is really them. That's the spirit calling.
When it comes to me and having friends, it's very hypothetical. But I'm going to ask you. You quoted the Bible. Okay, you said that the Bible says that the eye is the lamp of the whatever you said. So that tells me that you believe that what is written in the Bible is true. Yes?
I mean, I believe the Quran too. The Quran is the true book, to be honest.
Okay, so you're a Muslim then. You're Muslim.
I wouldn't say I'm Muslim. I would say I'm both Bible and Quran supporter.
A Bible
or a believer.
Yeah. Sounds like
for both books.
Okay. So why do you believe it? Really, we get that you believe certain things, but why is really what we're interested in. Why do you? Let's start with the Bible. All right. I'm a little biased. I read it more. Why do you believe the Bible's actually true?
Here's the thing with the Bible. Some stuff are true. Like there's some correlation with the Bible and Quran. Moses is in the book of the Bible and the Quran. So there's some real biblical characters and there's some fake ones in the Bible. So the Quran is the true book, to be honest.
So if something is in the Quran and the Bible, then it's true.
Yes.
What if something is in the Quran but not the Bible? Is it true?
I mean, it has to be true because there's at times when I go to church and I'll pray and I'll feel someone trembling and I would tremble too. So that's that connection that I have with the person, the spiritual connection. I tremble with the person. That brings affection to a whole new level.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're going to have to get into the Quran. So you believe that the Quran is true because you tremble sometimes when you see other people who believe in the Quran?
No, I tremble with the person during the service, church service.
Church service or mosque service?
Church, mosque, anything. Any
Does that not apply to what about other groups? Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses? I mean, anyone who uses a different book, maybe?
Some are false religions, you know. Some are false. They don't have that connection. But
if they pray,
that discernment to tell you.
But if they pray, but they're using a different non-Bible, non-Quran book. Are they complete?
If they have connection, if they have that full connection and they're able to acknowledge that they have a spirit of God, then yes.
Okay. So I guess this really comes back to why that you believe a God exists. If it's only because you tremble when you're there during church services, why should we believe?
Cast out demons.
What's that?
There are spiritual entities that the devil places upon people to make them lose concentration, lose sight of what they're doing.
Okay, now go ahead and prove that that's true to me. Why should I believe that's true?
That's true? Okay.
Why? Why should I believe that's true?
Eyes is blinking.
I missed that. Could you repeat
Yeah,
yourself,
me too.
please?
Yeah, so you felt your eyes blinking, but that's how it is. You lose your eyes will shake.
Your eyes will shake. Are there any other causes for why eyes shake? I tell you what, you know what? I withdraw the question. Thank you for calling, Sam. I hope that you get a blanket. Long live the new flesh. All right, I'm going to go on to Shinobi. Sharon is a gal coming from the USA. She's proud to be an American, where at least she knows she's free. And she's asking, should abortion be a right? Shinobi Sharon, you're on AXP with Hemant Mehta.
Okay, so we need to clear. Hold on. Am I get? Okay, wait.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. Shinobi Sharon, we're gonna have a conversation. It's gonna be a back and forth. We're going to be courteous to one another, acknowledging, of course, that there are delays. And so I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, and I'll just drop you like a trembling eyeball if I sense that this is going to turn hostile, okay?
Like
so
fruit juice.
Got the fruit juice right here.
Sure.
I'm all charged up, all right? I'm all charged up. I can see into your soul. So my question is to you, do you believe abortion should be a right, or do you think it should not be a right? Should it be a state right or a federal right? Go ahead. What do you got?
I think it should be a woman's right to choose all the way around. Of course, a woman's body is her own right. That's her private territory, baby. I mean, Mr. Angel, I meant no disrespect. I just kind of caught up with the call coming through my line a moment ago. You know what I mean? A little bit of the delay on my end, too. I'm in the upside down, wacky-do state of New York. Phone line, you know? Landline.
I do. I know it. Hemant, what are your thoughts on this?
Not only should it be a right, I guess the broader question is who should make medical decisions on someone's behalf. And I think your doctor, those are the people who should be making these decisions, and other people shouldn't be getting in the way of them. So as soon as you start saying it shouldn't be a right, as soon as you start saying that a politician who doesn't know the medical side of these things should be making those decisions, I feel like that's a slippery slope that never seems to end well. So I'd rather give people the right, and it doesn't necessarily mean we all have to agree with other people's decisions, but I'd rather people have the right to decide what happens to them than having other people make that decision for us.
Complete agreement. Thank you so much for calling in, Shinobi Sharon. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take a call from John, a chap out of Florida, who's asking, is religion needed for morality? John, you're on AXP with Hemant Mehta and Johnny P, and I want to turn the question to you. Do you think that that religion is needed for morality?
I personally do not.
Why?
That's kind of, let's see. Sorry, I'm kind of shaking up a little bit right now.
I can jump in while you
go ahead.
gather your thoughts there. I mean, I share, John, I share your belief that it's not necessary for morality. I think if you look, I mean, Phil Zuckerman, the sociologist, has written quite a bit about this, but basically, there are plenty of countries that have very little, their citizens have very little belief in God and organized religion. And yet, depending on what metric you want to use to measure morality, those countries seem to be doing pretty damn well, regardless of which thing you are choosing, whether it's human rights, whether it's marginalized people and the support they get, whether it's healthcare, their beliefs about trans people, the death penalty. I mean, pick your poison there. The countries that have the littlest belief in organized religion are also arguably the most moral. So we're seeing it play out in real time that you don't need religion much. I mean, at least organized religion, you don't need for people to behave in a way that suggests they want to make the world a better place, that they want to help people who are not themselves. The argument that you need God to be good is just broken all the time. I mean, we're all coming from the United States here, where the people who believe in God, who are also in positions of power, tend to be doing the things that hurt a lot of the most vulnerable people in our country. So, I mean, there's the flip side of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John,
So-
you got something you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from. Like, I mean, we're all in the U.S. of A. and it's a pretty Christian foundation here, it's kind of like I'm in a huge debate. I guess I don't know as much as I would like to know about morality and all of that, and that's really why I'm kind of calling, just to kind of get some feedback or some.
I think the thing I really want to know, John, sorry, not to cut you off there, that's the lag. But I guess the question it really depends is, how do you want to define morality? Because there's so many different ways of doing that. And if you can, I mean, there's so much data out there that suggests you don't need religion to be moral, but it all goes back to, how do you want to define morality? Because the way a lot of conservative Christians define it, I would agree, are not moral answers. I mean, we just talked about abortion rights a second ago. I would argue that's a moral situation, to put the patient to give power to the patient, to give power to the women. But plenty of conservative Christians would argue that doesn't matter. So it's a hard question to answer without knowing what you want to use to define morality. And until you can hammer that one down, until you can nail that one down, it's really hard to give a straight answer in any sort of debate with whoever you're trying to argue this with.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll need to re-examine my question and maybe come at it with more of a specific side before I'm making any real decisions or calling back in.
Yeah, I will say, like I said, from what I've read, and I really enjoy everything Zuckerman writes about this thing. If you Google his name, Phil Zuckerman, and morality, religion, you'll find this. You'll find articles and stuff about this. But again, if you want to say that morality is helping other people, nations that are less religious do a lot more of it. If you want to argue that people who are not religious donate to charity, if you're saying church is not a charity, but everything else might be like, we give as much as religious people do. Religious people might have a better infrastructure in place to make that happen, but it's not that people without religion are any less generous. So again, yeah, it goes back to how you want to define morality, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find any definition of it where religious people are found to be more moral when the playing field is even.
If I might say something here, I've been thinking about this lately, that religious morality, let's say Christian morality, let's talk about Jewish morality. Okay. There's no promise of an afterlife in Judaism necessarily, right? That deeds are considered moral or immoral insofar as it affects the community of the chosen people, right? And God has laid out, and the rabbis and leaders have laid out a course of action, a course of measurements, standards by which these behaviors are considered moral or immoral the law, or the concept of the law. This is you say it's agreed upon, but there's an element of divine revelation and divine cogitation, right, that goes into it. Christianity takes it a step further and kind of changes it, because the kingdom of God is not on earth permanently. It's the body of the believers, and the goal is to get you to heaven, where you'll have your real life, right? And I think that's where we see differences between a humanist, secular sense of morality and the religious, the Christian morality, where there is a goal of getting people to heaven, not necessarily a goal of getting people to live necessarily good lives here. To some degree, yes, but to a large degree, no. And that's how I think religious people are able to say that certain things are, even though we might have data, even though we might see how certain positions on moral issues may benefit actual living humans, they would still be considered immoral for purposes of a Christian worldview. Okay, so you might see, like, let's say, homosexuality, and amongst certain nations, probably a majority of the world, but maybe not all the world, certainly not all the world, people can, consenting adults can get involved in homosexual relationships, and they are free to do so, and there are certain protections in place. Whereas certain Christian denominations would say this is sin. By making this behavior acceptable, we are allowing people to sin. Therefore, we must prevent this behavior from taking place. We must limit this behavior, make it hard to be homosexual, and because we're concerned with their eternal souls, their eternal lives. And so the morality has a different end game, secular versus a religious-based one, right? I think Islam probably falls in the same category as well, because you go to, I don't know, Muslim heaven. I don't know. Talk to some of our other hosts about that. So I think that, just to put a knot in it, we talked about concepts of human happiness or flourishment. We talk about this a lot on the show. And I'd just like you to take a look at it from the religious person's perspective, with an eye on the eternal life that we don't know exists, versus the secular person who is looking at the world we actually live in right now. And take a look at how religious people's morality may differ from secular person's morality. You might see that those moral stances are based upon that goal as opposed to a secular goal. Thoughts?
That makes a lot of sense. I really appreciate that answer, actually. So I'll definitely have to check into this Phil Zuckerman, Zuckerman.
Zuckerman, yeah.
Just to kind of, I really appreciate what you all said, and for the reference, I definitely will be calling back at some point to kind of, tackle this a little more head on.
Yeah, please do.
Please
do. You take care, John. All right. Well, we know we've got a few more super chats.
Yeah.
Hemant, could you take that?
Sure. From Brandon, who gave $5, says, big fans of you both, podcaster in the Bible Belt. Curious if you have advice starting free thinking or atheist groups in areas like these. So the good news is that if you're in the Bible Belt, I would argue anecdotally that you probably have better odds of finding or starting atheist groups in these places, because there's a need for them. If you're trying to start one up, it's really just a matter of having, I would argue, the thing you need more than anything, whether it's you or whether it's someone else, is having someone willing to take the lead. And it doesn't require that much. It means posting meetup dates, planning a place where you can all get together. It could be a restaurant, it could be someone's place, wherever. A public place is usually safe, but then getting that information out there, and then just making sure there's something to do. Not everyone can meet at a bar. Not everyone has the money to go to a restaurant. So diversifying where you meet, what you do, that helps a lot. But if you are in the Bible Belt, odds are there are people looking for that sort of stuff. And if they can find that it's happening with a search online, just put the information out in as many venues as you can, whether it's Facebook, Meetup, whatever ways you can get the word out there. Make sure you are checking with national groups you might be familiar with to see if they have members in the area who they could send a blast out to. But if you can get the information out there, colleges as well, if you can get the information out there, you might be surprised at who you find and who they tell about this stuff. But I would also say, make sure that you are doing everything you can to make it a welcoming place that accepts people, doesn't have distractions or people who are going to scare everyone off. But, years ago, I worked with a group that helped launch atheist groups at college campuses. And we found that we had the most success in, typically red states because those college students had like 70 options for Christian groups on campus and 0 options if they were non-religious. So the second there was a solid group in place to offer them a home, they really went for it. They wanted to talk about these issues with people who weren't going to judge them negatively for it. I suspect that's the same outside of college too. So good luck to you.
Yeah.
There's also
real quick,
Yes.
Secular Student Alliance over at UTSA, University of Texas, San Antonio. We had to work with them on a regular basis. Much love. Hope to see you all very soon. But that's a group. That's exactly the story that they have, where there's all these religious groups and they're the only secular group, expressly secular group, because there's groups that are not religious based, but activity based. But this is about non-belief, and there's plenty of us out there. But yeah, I agree with you, Emmett. You're not going to get, probably harder to find a secular group, an atheist group in Boston or New York or San Francisco. They exist though, and I'm on their lists. So
they exist. But odds are a lot of people are thinking, well, I don't necessarily feel the need to gather with other atheists because it's a pretty secular area, as much as it helps the people who go there. But man, if you're coming from a red state or even a red part of a blue state or something, there is a need for that. So please take the initiative, make it happen, and you never know what's going to happen. Also, we have Pat in the chat who gave $5, who just has a comment here. Mela, like MAGA, make abortion legal again. Nobody has a right to use my body to sustain a life. Nobody has a right to use yours. Consent is everything. Totally. No notes. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, agreed. All right. So we're going to take our last call today. We're going to take a call from Dave, this guy in India, the nation of India. And his question is this is unusual. I haven't heard this one before. Are you ready? Is God a conspiracy by the military-industrial complex? Dave, you're on AXP with Hemant Mehta and Johnny P. Do you believe that?
Hi. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah. So, I think it's just a control mechanism that has been invented by the elites. And it's like a mass generalization that has been done just to control the psychological stuff of people. And as we advance more and more towards a higher and higher tech, then we're going to invent God for our own selves. And there is nothing really like a God out there, but we're going to invent it for ourselves. And there's Kardashev scale and a bunch of other stuff that indicate towards this stuff. So do you think that's like a good point of view?
So if I'm taking that question in good faith, and I guess the question is it possible that there is government need to control people and God is a way to do it? One argument against that is that belief in a higher power, no matter what you wanted to call it, no matter what those powers were, that's been around as long as human life has been around, far before there was any organized military aspect to it. So the beliefs have been around forever. And if they are trying to control people using God, I feel like it'd be very difficult to make that work because the specifics of that, how that God works, are so important to so many people that, Christianity alone can't get everyone under one roof. It's like herding cats for them as well. So even if it was some sort of like psychological operation or something by the government, I don't know how they would get it to work, because the belief has been around, but the specifics of those beliefs vary, very importantly so for a lot of people. So I don't know that you would be able to make that work, because what version of that would get so many people thinking a certain way? uh, Religious people disagree with each other about the specifics all the time. And obviously, there's a growing number of non religious people. So I don't buy the idea that it's part of the military industrial complex. I don't think it could be, because it's so hard to wield over people, also. So I don't know how they would make it work. It would just, it's a weapon with very bad aim.
Dave, what are your thoughts to that? And I have an observation too.
So I think like initially we were Homo sapiens, and before that we were like some kind of monkey or something. We still are, but like we were like nomads, and we were roaming around all across the world, and we were in different tribes, and we had our own inventions. But then as more and more globalization happened, as more and more territories were occupied by different kingdoms, and there was different kinds of interactions that was happening between different religions, I think we picked the best parts and we kept the best part, and that's all started during the 1 AD, because in 1 BC we literally had nothing, and there is no zero. So without zero, we just started at 1 AD, and then we just continued on. And
1 AD.
180. I'm going to skip some of what you said there, but just to go back, I think going back to your basic question, religion has always really been like this bottom up sort of thing. And I feel like your question is suggesting it's a top down thing, that people are telling people what to believe, or that they could tell people what to believe. I don't know that that's going to work. But as long as societies have been around, we always want to distinguish ourselves from another, give ourselves reasons to think we have it right, everyone else has it wrong. I mean, that is true, but it's not like you could create religion as a way to, I don't know, exacerbate that problem. I don't think that's what's happening. I don't think there's any evidence that's happened in the past, or that, more importantly, that it could be used now to, I mean, I don't know how you even get that going, even if you thought that was possible.
Yeah. Dave, I don't know.
And the idea that it started in 1 AD, I'm still trying to wrap my head around.
Yeah, you're in India. You're in India, Dave. They have had Hinduism in India for a long, long time before 1 AD. But independent of that, okay, I think you started along a path that I was agreeing with you, and then you kind of got derailed. This idea that you know we were these simple, or simple is the wrong word, people who live in nomadic tribes have a complicated culture that keeps the tribe together. They have questions just like they did, and the people who still are nomadic have questions about the world. They have more resources than they used to. They have more lore and more science and more knowledge than they used to. But all of our ancestors were coming from nomadic tribes at some point. And we still had the same questions we have now about meaning and purpose, and ways to deal with the natural world, and ways to accept the vicissitudes of life. And I think that people were brainstorming. And then there were people amongst those people who became sort of spokesmen, who binded the community with shared stories and myths and explanations and rituals, so that when you did encounter other communities, you had a connection to the people that you're with. You didn't just wander off. I think that it had a utility, but I don't think that it's necessarily a construct of the ruling class. I think that the ruling class, the leaders, co-opt these beliefs for use. But let's say, General Petraeus or whatever shows up and decides he wants his troops to believe in Ramatut, or Immortus or something. I don't know. I couldn't think of a real one, so I went to the Marvel Universe.
That's a good one. I would believe in that one.
They're going to be like, screw this. I believe in Ram Dass's teachings on spiritualism. I'm not worshiping King the Conqueror's many alternate versions. I'm not going to be a part of this. But if General Petraeus, I don't know why it's General Petraeus.
Yeah, you're going back like 20 years here.
I'll do better. Stormin Norman Schwarzkopf decides to say, all right, he starts sprinkling the fairy dust of religion upon the mission, right? That's going to get people to fight with their brains and maybe a little bit with their sense of I don't know, of morality, or a sense of their spiritual sense of the righteousness of their battles. I think they'll fight a little harder. Sure worked for Paul Muad'Dib with the Fremen, right? But that's as far as I can go. I like a good conspiracy as much as the next guy, but I don't think that the leaders created out of whole cloth. Do you really think that, Dave? Do you really think that the leaders just decided that they did that?
So what I really feel is that here, especially in India, since it's a developing country, and the knowledge level, the kind of knowledge and the knowledge level are really low. So people just put everything on God. And like in America, it's a much more it's a developed country, and you have a lot of resources, and there's a lot of information of different kinds of information. But in India, it's like a propaganda machine, a giant propaganda machine that is being churned out by the government. And everyone just believes that and goes with it blindly. I myself, I was a theist almost 2 or 3 years back, and I used to believe in God. But then I came across all these different channels, like your channel. Thank you for that. And then The Line and different kinds of podcasts on internet. So that's when I started to realize that you guys are actually right, and these propaganda machines are just keeping us in a giant illusion. And even if there is a God, I'm fine with that. There might be a God, but it is like 1 trillion standard deviation away from our lifetimes, and it doesn't really affect us. And in order to live a good, successful humanly life, all you need is like good morals, good ethics, and some kind of work and purpose to do. And that's why I just hate this kind of propaganda that have been going around, especially over here. That's
I wanted to. Thanks, Dave. If I may add to that, I mean, what you're talking about is like the Prime Minister Modi using Hinduism as a way to gain influence, gain power, use that against others. I mean, religion can be a force for good or bad, however you want to use it. And certainly we've seen it being used for bad. But I think that that's a very different topic than trying to start from the top down and use religion as some sort of weapon against other people, because you would have to get everyone on board to begin with. And I'm sure this is true in India now, though I haven't followed this as closely, but I know it's true in the US. There are plenty of Christians here who opposed what was being done in the name of their faith. That's still happening now. I'm sure that's true in India too, where plenty of Hindus are very upset at the way Modi is using Hinduism there. So it's not like it's a weapon that could be used all the time, because there's always going to be dissent. There's always going to be discrepancies with how you want to use the religion and how it actually gets used. So I don't know that it would work that well if you just wanted to make it work.
Yeah, Dave, we're going to let you go. And I would say that the use of religion as a way to control people, as a weapon, that's kind of a dangerous thing, because once the state, once militaries, once anyone gets involved in using religion as a weapon, although it's being used right now, they're going to find that it becomes an ultimate nullifier, right? That it's a weapon that turns in on itself. It destroys the user. Maybe not in the short, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon, and for the rest of their lives. And so when politicians use religion, it can backfire like no one's business. And we're seeing that kind of throughout the world. And yes, Modi is using Hinduism as a weapon. Let's see where that takes him. And let's see where that takes his legacy, because history continues even after the political career ends. But thank you so much for calling us, Dave. Do appreciate your call. And also, we love it when folks from other countries call in because they do bring a perspective other than ones in, the United States and Canada and England, which we get a lot of calls from. Would love to have
We also have one more super chat here from Robin Webster. Gave $5 to ACA. Just Johnny and Hemant, thanks for the show. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Do appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right. So let's see. Let's go through the rest of my announcements. You have to be in the Austin area next week on August 27th, and please join us for that live broadcast we talked about earlier. The Bat Cruise is on Saturday, but Sunday is the live show, and I'm going to be there. We're going to have a real barn burner. It's going to be Forrest Valkai. It's going to be Jamie the Blind Limey and J Mike and me. And we're all going to be here. We're all going to be down there. Doors open at noon. We hope to see you there. Let me go a little further and say that we do have that AXP Talk Heathen live stream that's going 24 hours a day. You can tune in to see over 26 seasons of the Atheist Experience. And now Talk Heathen TV provides you with clips of Talk Heathen, an equally great show. Watch or simply listen to your favorite hosts and maybe some new ones that you didn't know about. Tiny.cc/AXPTV and tiny.cc/HeathenTV to join in the fun. Remember our Share Your Experience question. What's the weirdest Bible story? Hemant talked about that talking donkey. Was that the same donkey that they were referring to with the ejaculate that was also?
I think that's a different one.
Okay.
They have a lot of uses for donkeys in the Bible.
So we got the talking one and we got the one with the super sperm. Got it. All right.
Just Bible, like Jesus wanted.
It's a family book. I don't know why people have problems with it. Well, and Hemant, we all know where we can find you because every single person who watches this show also watches your content. But tell us where we can find you.
Sure. Go to friendlyatheist.com for my writing, and you could see the YouTube thing on your channel right there, Friendly Atheist 1, and I will get my revenge at whoever took Friendly Atheist. But you could find me at those places. I hope you do.
He who laughs last laughs best. And my money's on you.
Thank you.
Folks out there, religious belief, supernatural belief. I said this the other week. I said it was a cancer. Let's say it this: religious belief, supernatural, magical thinking. It's like a tumor in the body. All right. Sometimes it's benign, but sometimes it's very malignant. And when someone has identified a tumor in the body, a doctor identifies it, they're watching it. They're making sure it doesn't metastasize. They're making sure it doesn't grow. And sometimes we get great beliefs like crystal healing and helping people, but they're still going to the doctor and they're not trying to sell scams. But sometimes that turns into a malignant belief. So examine your own beliefs. Make sure that your beliefs are based in reality, that they're not malignant, that they are in fact either benign or sound and not tumors at all. Thank you for tuning in and for listening to us. I'm very pleased to have been here with Hemant Mehta.
Thank you, Johnny. This was a blast.
See you all next week.
What will it take for you to start opening your eyes, to start questioning the bullshit everyone around you buys? You think it's setting up your business, what goes on between my thighs? I wonder when we'll be rid of your lies.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.